got to say, how I felt about it when I first watched it, I felt the same on second watch, which is that I absolutely
Hi there.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the second episode of AutopStream. Thank you, everybody, for being here this Sunday afternoon, and I hope everybody's seen Joker, because we're about to spoil the shit out of it. We'll talk for a while without spoilers for those of you that haven't, but we do have a little visual aid if you want to mute that section of the show. No worries, you don't have to click off now, but go ahead and talk about, or not talk about, let's go ahead and introduce my compadres over here at AutopStream. Brian, how you doing?
I'm good, yeah. I've just watched the best film of the year, so I'm really good. Twice?
You watched Lords of Chaos twice?
I've been telling you all along you were wrong about Midsummer, man. You didn't have to watch it twice just to make sure I was... CP, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm happy to be somewhere else talking about movies. And there was a super chat that Tony Movie 9 Mendez... I wrote the question down. We'll get to that. So don't think that we forgot about you. I got it before we went live. So when we get to the questions portion, I will absolutely get to that question. But thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for reminding me. I needed to get the chat out. So so guys, we have quite a few pretty cool topics to talk about today. Obviously, the big one's going to be Joker. Was released this weekend. I know at least one of us is chomping at the bit to talk about it. Mm-hmm. But I think it's safe to say it was in all three of ours, probably most anticipated for the back half of the year. Brian, it was probably what you're most anticipated for the year, probably, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so a lot of Joker thoughts. Yes, CP, we know you're a Star Wars guy. So we're going to be talking about Joker. We're also going to be talking about, although it's a little bit late, the Spider-Man returning to the MCU, our thoughts on that. Sam Raimi announcing that a new Evil Dead movie is in development, so we'll be talking about that one. Good timing. And Eddie Murphy making his triumphant return and coming back to his Beverly Hills Cop franchise. So all of that, plus the post-mortem questions that you guys sent in. And we'll kick it off with Joker. So I'm going to go ahead and get to Brian. Go ahead and let this diatribe get going first. What were your thoughts on Joker, Brian?
No diatribe, just it was awesome. I think going into it, I think one of the main things is obviously we've had a lot of hype. We've had a lot of discussion before we've even been able to watch it about the negative consequences of, selling sympathy to incels and allowing them to run haywire with violence and kind of justify it to themselves and all that. And quite frankly, that's bollocks. It's all total bollocks. This is not a film about an incel. It is a film about a man who is seriously mentally disturbed, who is on medication, and only comes off that medication because of a failure in the system due to a lack of
funding.
Resource, funding, basically poverty. Basically, the people who are at the bottom of the food chain stay at the bottom of the food chain, and because the rich don't really help them, they're living in garbage. They're living with big, giant mutant rats, from the sound of it. And this poor guy who's got a mental illness, can no longer get his medication. So it's all about someone it's all about how society doesn't protect their own. It doesn't protect the people who are most vulnerable, who are on the fringes of society. And that can only result in one thing, ultimately. In this case, it's violence. And I think it's one, it acts as a warning to to society in general, but also I feel like it's a call to society to treat its vulnerable people better. As someone who's been on the benefit system, is still on the benefit system over in the UK, and I thank God for the benefit system because, quite frankly, my family would not survive without it. But it's hard to navigate. I said this in my review. It's this idea, and this is why I relate to the film so much, is that it does relate so much to real world issues. Yeah, it takes them to the extreme, but I can relate to Arthur Fleck because even, I'm a fairly intelligent guy. I've got a master's degree, but I find it really hard to navigate the benefit system. Me and my wife have really struggled to navigate the system, and we feel like we almost get pushed back at every turn. So if I put myself in the position of someone who hasn't been educated, who doesn't really know how to fend for themselves, they're pretty much screwed. The system is designed to screw them, to lose them, so to speak. And I just feel like this film does an excellent job of saying, you know what? We all have a responsibility as a society, as humanity. We all have a responsibility to look out for each other, and particularly those that are on the fringes. And yeah, this film does a really good job of dealing with that. And I think anyone who says it's giving sympathy to incels and allowing them to go to extreme measures, I think that's just a way of fobbing off your own responsibility. I think it's a way of fobbing off or not acknowledging what the film is really all about, which is pointing the finger, which is holding a mirror up and saying, actually,
is that just me?
We're all responsible. So
repeat yourself, Brian. After the incels, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, just I feel like anyone who just puts this film down to a sympathy vote for incels is really doing it a service. But I also think that they're doing themselves a disservice. I think by saying that, it's a way of not acknowledging their own responsibility within the society that they have to exist. It's like, oh well, if I can just fob it off as.
Well, part of the problem is the character isn't an incel, and he has a girlfriend in the movie. Like I don't understand why this incel thing, like this label incel, which is kind of popular on the internet, is people who can't get laid, and involuntarily so.
We might be heading into spoiler territory.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like even with the spoiler that we all currently have in our mind.
I have a picture, Brian, so that I'll warn everybody when we go into it. But when we're ready to steer into it, we
I'm not. Okay. I'm not going to give the spoiler, but those who know the spoiler that we're thinking of right now, even with that in mind, he's not an incel.
Right.
He's a mentally. The definition of an incel has got nothing to do with people who are on the fringes of society because they're mentally ill. It's about people who aren't quite able to reach out socially. They feel uncomfortable in that regard, and therefore find it hard to build relationships with the opposite sex or with people they would want as a partner. It's got nothing to do with the fact that this guy, this main character we're following, goes completely off the rails because the system has failed him. He needs medication. He doesn't get it because the system has failed him. That's not an incel. That's ridiculous. I read a review on Letterboxd by this guy called David Ehrlich. Now he's someone who I disagree with regularly. He's like one of these top critics. I think he writes for the Times. If you go on Letterboxd, his reviews are always at the top because he just puts out that many. He's what you'd call a proper Rotten Tomatoes, registered critic and all that nonsense. And he's one of the ones who's like thrown this whole incel nonsense out there. And I when you read his review on Letterboxd, seriously, I read that and all I get from it is someone who doesn't want to hold their hands up and take part in society or within a particular section of society, i.e., that notion of accepting responsibility for looking out for those who can't look after themselves, which I feel we're all culpable for as a society. And I again, throwing that whole incel nonsense out there is just a way of pushing that responsibility aside. That's the way it appears to me anyway. But there you go. Next.
Brian, real quick before I move on to CP, what do you want to see as far as the future of this? Do you want this to be a one and done standalone? It's made its message. That's all we need to see. Do you want to see a follow up with Arthur Fleck? Do you want to see don't talk about whether or not you want to see him in the universe because we actually have a question about that. But just do you want to see more from Arthur Fleck?
Yes. I'd like to see more from this Joker. I think that the thing is, we have a good. The fact of the matter is, Joaquin Phoenix ain't going to attach his name to anything that he doesn't believe in from a script standpoint. So right off the bat, we're in a good, solid place. Because if they announce that they're doing a sequel to this, if they announce that Joaquin Phoenix is coming back, you know that there's reason to have faith. Because, like I say, he ain't going to put his name to a sequel just for the sake of doing a sequel. So, yeah, if they announce one and Joaquin Phoenix is on board, I'm on board. I hope they do, because I loved this and I'd love to see what else they can do with it.
Gotcha. CP, what's your spoiler-free thoughts? Sorry, Brian.
I was going to say I'd certainly love to see this world's version of Batman going up against him. Who knows? Maybe that's one for 20 years down the line. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think I want to see a sequel from this movie, but it's not like I wouldn't jump out of my seat to watch it if that makes any sense at all. Like I feel like this, when we get to spoiler talk, I can expand on this a little bit more, but it felt like it was technically it could be a prequel for a lot of different versions of the Joker story, which was good enough. I don't think we need to Prometheus Alien Covenant off of this. Just let it be its own thing. The thing about it is, if it weren't titled Joker, it would be a really hell of a good movie about how much we don't care for people who are mentally unwell, and some of it. Did you get the idea that some of the movie was in his head?
Oh,
or all of it?
That's clearly stated that some of the movie is in his head. Again, spoilers and that.
I said
but,
beyond what
certainly not all of it. Certainly not all of it. I know there is theories out there about how the whole movie was in his head. I don't subscribe to that at all.
Yeah, neither do I.
Yeah, because
I think the scenes that they clearly state are in his head. That's as far as I go with it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, remind me about that later, because there's stuff there's stuff there that it just wouldn't make sense for me. But yeah, no, I'm perfectly fine with the story contained as it is. As a matter of fact, without the ending, I thought that was without the last couple of shots or whatever, I felt like that would have been a nice way to end this little contained story. But well, DC's got their name on it, and it's already doing quite well. But I don't want one, but I'm not against one. Just do it right and be careful would be my opinion on moving forward from this.
I I'd be happy to see other standalone films that exist within this world. So you know, you could do like a gangster movie about the Penguin, and things like that, so that yes, they exist in this world, but not in a MCU kind of way where we're all leading to something and they have to tie in. And if you've watched that one, you need to watch this one. Just I like that, you know, because this kind of movie is dying. And when comic book movies first started, they were all like this. They were all single contained stories that you could come to on their own terms and leave, and that's it. You've had your fill. You've had a complete story. You don't feel like you have to come back for another one. And that's kind of dying because of the MCU. And I don't want this to turn into a DC versus Marvel and all that nonsense. I love the MCU. I love Marvel movies.
Get there.
Yeah. I've got them all. Yeah, I've got them all on Blu-ray. You know what? I wouldn't buy them all on Blu-ray if I didn't love them. But not every flipping movie has to be part of a wider franchise. So, yeah, I like that this is self-contained, that it's standalone. I like that I don't have to now invest in another 20 movies in order to feel that this is complete in some way. So, yeah, do some other solo movies that, if you wish, you can say are part of this world, but aren't necessarily a direct sequel. Yeah.
As somebody who has comic book movie fatigue, I find this to be incredibly refreshing, but at the same time, this is a movie that would be really hard for me to go back to and just say, you know what, it's a nice, beautiful Sunday afternoon. Let me throw on Joker because I want to feel good about myself and watch a nice movie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I watched it, and then I went off and watched another film, just like something a lot more kind of relaxed and carefree. Yeah, and then I went back and I watched Joker again. I was really in the mood to go and see it again. Like, I don't know, maybe it's because of my love for the Batman world, this character in his comic book form. It's like it's much bigger for me. Like, it's someone who, I don't know, isn't caught up in the world of Batman. I guess this there wouldn't be that much reason to come and revisit. I don't know. For me, it just spoke to me on so many more levels. Maybe because I'm a fan.
Oh, I just meant it's drab. It's like the Requiem for a Dream of comic book movies.
Yeah, but also there is a certain sense of satisfaction, and people are going to think I'm twisted here, but there is a certain sense of satisfaction when Arthur pulls the trigger. You know, and in much the same way, I think, as seeing Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio pull the trigger in Once Upon a Time. Yes, that film is a bit more, humorous. It has a bit more of a kind of a light take. But until we get to the ending in that film, we think it's heading a particular way, and you're kind of, you're dreading that moment. I mean, that's kind of the point of the film. But here, again, it's Brian, like there is that...
Brian, this is Cody's channel, and he has yet to say a word about the movie.
No. It's fine. It's fine.
We know you like DC movies.
Not all of them. Not all of them. It's not. It doesn't get my seal of approval just because it's DC. Look, I feel like because of who Arthur Fleck is, because of the abuse we see him suffer, it does kind of give him license at the end, where you're almost on his side. You're almost with him. You can't quite condone him, that's obvious, but you also there's a part of me that says, you know what? I don't blame the guy. don't blame the guy.
Yeah, hold that thought, because like there's a bunch of that I want to get into in spoilers, but
We've got about 3 things now that we need to hold because you want to go
well,
back to.
there's a lot of things in the third act where I'm like, well, that wouldn't be if this,
yeah.
Cody.
Hi guys. All right, Joker. So I had big expectations for it. I tried my best to walk in not buying so much into the hype, because 9 times out of 10 that gets me in trouble. That gets a lot of us in trouble. When you have people talking about best of the year, best ever, this is going to change comic book cinema forever, Oscar lock, everything like that, you got to walk in a little tempered. I really enjoyed the film. It didn't quite reach those heights for me. I thought that Joaquin Phoenix was awesome. That was the one thing I had no doubt about anyway. He was great. I really liked the tone of the film, that it was very unapologetically down. And it was much more of a character study about this guy, this mental illness, the treatment of society, and the comic book stuff, the DC Universe stuff, the Batman lore stuff, really just... It's not that it feels tacked on, because they weave it in really well, but you could take that out of the film and the film is equally as strong. The Thomas Wayne references and everything, that's really more of a kind of wink and nod to us comic book fans. It's if you watch it, if Thomas Wayne was irrelevant, I'll throw up the spoiler thing. Fuck it. I'll do my thing and then we'll move right into spoilers.
So,
because we're going to keep.
So, warning to those of you who want to avoid spoilers. I'm going to throw up an image briefly to let you know that we're in spoiler territory. So you mute it or whatever, and then when you see the image come back up, we'll be done. So, again, here's your warning. I lost the image because I'm a jerk. And okay, so we're now in spoilers. When you see this again, we'll be done.
Everyone dies.
Man, the Terminator! What was that about?
When you have the Thomas Wayne piece of the story, whenever it's revealed to him that Thomas Wayne is his father, or at least in this note, comic book fans go, "Holy shit, he's Batman's half brother." Right. That is insane. Or they get really pissed because they're one of those weird comic book fans that wants nothing to change ever. But if you Thomas Wayne was not tied to Batman, it would just be crazy enough, because the figurehead of the rich is his father, and he's left him and his mother to be, desecrated by society. So it's equally as strong, even if that has no ties to the DC universe whatsoever. So I thought that was really creative how they were able to tie Batman stuff in, but not have it detract from the movie at all. So that was really cool.
It adds something, to be honest.
Well, it adds to it for comic book fans. Yes, it's that extra little nugget. But if you walked in and if you had your head under the sand and you had no idea who Joker was, and you just walked in and watched this as its own thing, it still rings true to the story, and it still adds to it if you have no idea who Bruce Wayne and Thomas Wayne is. Yeah. So I like that. I also, kind of giving my answer for the future of Joker, I like the fact that this movie kicks open the door for more movies like this more than I do the fact that it's successful enough for another Joker film. Comic books forever have had standalone stories, these little one-offs. You have like the Dark Knight Returns, you have Old Man Logan, and when the MCU really changed the landscape for comic book films, everybody just wants to do that. They want to have the universe. It can't take away from the universe. It has to fit in somehow. And I like the fact that this movie is, obviously it's going to be financially successful enough. It's definitely critically successful enough to say, you can do things outside of a universe and people will still watch them. They're not going to be confused. They're not going to wonder where, Ben Affleck is in this whole story. You can walk in and see a movie for its own. Movie audiences are smart enough for that nowadays. So I like that as far as the future for more standalone stories, both in the MCU, the DCU, the Fox side of MCU, whatever you want to call it, all around. I like the fact that this changes the landscape a bit, saying not everything has to tie into each other. Love the MCU to death, but it doesn't all have to tie into each other. I'd like to see a random one-off Iron Man story or something like that. So that's my thing with that. As far as negatives with the film, I really liked the creativity with the whole laugh being like a disorder that he has, where he
Or
laughs in
was it?
uncomfortable situations or he's sad. Yeah, but we'll get into it, I
Okay.
guess. But I like the fact that it did that. But to me, the shtick of it got a little overused. Like there was so many scenes of him just cackling by himself for a good minute. That by the halfway point, I was like, I get it, it's cool. That was a small nitpick. Beyond that, it's really just the rewatchability factor. It was great. It did everything that it
Hmm.
set out to do, almost perfectly. It's not a movie that I would throw in as often as some of the others. That's about the biggest negative I come away with it, which isn't really a negative on the film. It's just rewatchability is a big thing for me. But I really enjoyed it. So, CP, take it away with your. You've been itching for your spoilers, so here we
So
go.
this like it's just kind of a nitpick more than anything. The whole parade of all the people in the clown masks. Um, do you think that there's a reason they shied away from him actually being the person that murdered the Waynes, as opposed to inspired people to?
Yeah, because he never
Because
did it in the
oh,
comic books.
One more time.
yeah, that was a big controversial thing when the 1989 Batman came out. Actually,
Yeah.
that they changed that.
Mm. Like that.
To
And
me, it's
that's
much more about. Go ahead. Sorry, Brian.
no, sorry. Well, it's just about what you said before. When I said I think it adds to it. That's one of the things that I love that it adds to it is this
Mhm.
idea that Joker and Bruce's lives are so interconnected in more ways than they even realized. They're the flip side of the same
Hmm.
coin. Like Bruce, he'll remember that his mum and dad were gunned down by a guy in a clown mask. In the future, that will really make him have a very particular kind of feeling towards this guy who calls himself the Joker and runs around killing people. But it's just, yeah, I love the fact that actually Joker didn't directly kill his parents, but is
Agreed.
indirectly responsible for it. Because it just, I don't know, there's something poetic about that. It's like that line in the Tim Burton Batman when he says, I created you, but you created me
Hmm.
first." It's kind of like a spin on that, but again, a bit not so on the nose with it. And again, it brings that kind of class element into it as well. The way that the working class versus the rich elite, and I liked it. I really liked that aspect of it.
Do you think that um, Mr. Wayne, I forgot Dad's name,
Thomas
Thomas
Wayne.
Wayne, do you think that he's telling the truth, that mom's crazy and they didn't have an affair,
I
or whatever?
I think it's yeah, I think it's intentionally vague. I think it's intentionally ambiguous because, and that's again what I love about it, because it lets you, the audience, decide. It doesn't want to tell you. It doesn't want to spoon feed you the answer and tell you because it wants to let you be the judge of that. For me personally, I believe he's telling the truth, and that's because as a fan of the comic books, I like to think that Thomas Wayne is an on the level dude who raised his son in a very good way and was a man of moral principle. Therefore, that's yeah, he's a bit rough around the edges. He's willing to punch someone when they're pissing him off. But yeah, because of my love for the comic books, because of how I look at it, I say yeah, he's on the level. He's telling the truth. But
You know what
I would
sold me on that, Brian?
what?
What actually sold me on that, and I agree with you, is actually Alfred's response to him.
Yeah,
Because Alfred has always been kind of this moral compass for the Wayne family, and
yeah.
whenever he sees him, not only is he kind of taken back because Joker's sitting there, messing around with Bruce, and it's like, what the hell are you doing, dude? But beyond that, whenever he says, who he is, he's like, oh my God, this bitch again, and it's just it's that sold it to me. Because if he had had some kind of like a weird like, oh my God, we knew this day was going to come kind of
Mm.
response to it, then I would have much more of a a question. But to me, Alfred's response actually sold to me that Thomas Wayne was telling the truth.
Yeah, I mean, there is the note at the end on the back of the picture of Arthur's mum that is from TW. And a friend of mine suggested that is, that's the evidence that yes, she was telling the truth. But actually, all I see there is the woman so deluded that she has essentially written that herself to feed her own delusion. So yeah, and that's the reason that Arthur screws it up at the end. He doesn't look at it and go, "Oh crap, smoking gun right there. Let's get that handwriting checked." No, he looks at it and he screws it up because he truly believes his mum was lying.
Yeah, and
guys, in the chat room, I guess we didn't anticipate this, but if you're not listening to us for the moment, I wouldn't look at the chat for a moment either. They're going to be talking about the same stuff that we're talking about.
Well, yeah, I figured. Keep close up. Oh, wait. Yeah, I guess you have to look to find out when we're done talking. So,
Durban says, I think Thomas is telling the truth because Arthur found the records he was adopted. Yeah, I for people who don't believe he is telling the truth, there is the explanation within the film that actually Thomas Wayne paid for those adoption papers to be drawn up. It's not out of the realm of possibility for someone with his power, his riches, to have something like that, mocked up. But again, it's ambiguous and intentionally so because it wants you, the audience, to decide for yourself. And there is no wrong answer. That's the thing. If you want to believe Thomas Wayne is a bad guy in this, that's fine. If you want to read it that way, I don't. It's not the way I want to go. And that's fine too.
So in the land of how television works, no comedian that bombed like that would get a gig on a show, let alone being interviewed. So my question to you: how much of things that happened, if only the third act, how much of that do you think actually happened and how much is in his head?
I think all of it happened. I don't take much of an issue with the fact that they brought him on because they brought him on for mockery, and that's kind of what the show is about. I mean, it may be a little bit advanced for the era, maybe a little too Tosh.0 for the 80s, but I didn't have any problem with that logic at all. Yeah, it's Gotham, so to me it was that guy's entire show was making cracks at everybody, and the fact that everybody was so responsive to his jokes to Arthur Fleck, going off that explanation that he was just, they got that much of a response. We want more of this guy, that they invited him in because they knew it'd be comedy gold when he sat down.
Yeah, they didn't bring him in for a set. So they didn't bring him in to say, "Hey, you got 20 minutes to get up and tell jokes." They brought him in to make fun of him. It's like Jerry Springer, all these kind of shows. We have one over here. I don't know if you know him, but he's called Jeremy Kyle.
Yeah.
His show's just been cancelled because a guy who came on ended up committing suicide. And it's just like what these shows do. I know two people actually who worked on the Jeremy Kyle show. I worked with one who was a producer on a show that I did, and she felt very uncomfortable on that show. We had some good discussions about it because she openly admitted that's what they do. They take people who are not educated, who come from, again, the fringes of society, and they put them up on screen for basically a carnival show. But they know they're going to make complete tits of themselves, and they don't care because it's entertainment, and that's exactly what they do with Arthur Fleck.
But then why would the production manager, whoever was with Robert De Niro, I'm assuming that the director, production manager, whoever, why was he so cautious with how things were going, and he wanted to pull the plug on things, and if
because of the clown makeup.
Yeah.
And
because there's a demonstration going on outside that is very political, involving those clowns, people with the clown masks. This guy, alarm bells start ringing when this guy comes on wearing this clown uniform, because he's like, this is going to turn into something political, which we do not need. This guy's a few fruits short of a basket. So yeah, I think if Arthur Fleck could have come in without the makeup, without the clown suit, I don't think this guy would be having an issue. Because don't forget something's just been on the news as well. You know, it's all over the news that some dude in a clown mask has just been responsible for 2 police officers being shot. That guy, they mentioned that before Arthur Fleck goes on. So the TV network, they know that. The producer guy knows that. And so they're a bit touchy about it. Do they want to offend most of the audience by doing something that could literally backfire?
And to backtrack a bit, the time he spent with Domino from Deadpool 2, how much of that is real? Or
none of it.
None of it.
Except the first meeting in the lift where she does that and he gets out.
They show a flash. Yeah, they show a flash of every single scene that he has with her. They show her there, and then it blinks, and they show her gone.
Oh, and the final one with her as well, when he goes into her apartment, and she's like, "What are you doing here? You're in the wrong apartment." And we never find out if he actually.
See that confuses me though, because there's the scene where he's at the comedy club bombing, and she's in the audience.
Yeah, well, she's not in the audience.
It shows that. It shows her laughing, and then it shows empty seat.
There's only 2 scenes with her in that exist. All the others don't. There's the one in the lift at the start where they do the 2 gun. She does the gun thing, then he does the gun thing and freaks
Okay.
her out. After that, anything with her doesn't take place except for the last scene. What are you doing here? So.
Okay. I'll need to watch it again, because there was things like that I was confused by, because if that's the case, then is there even really a comedy tape for them to be playing on the show? And like I'm believe it or not, I'm a bit more on the side of it's all in his head, because of the way that it plays out.
Why wouldn't there be a comedy tape though? As far as he's concerned, he does his comedy act, and there's someone watching him in the audience. All this is Fight Club. Tyler Durden. He's not really there. It's just like he's doing the act. He thinks she's watching, showing support, but she isn't.
Yeah,
everyone else is there.
I think my history is playing into it, where I know for a fact no set like that would get sent to any to any television studio or whatever. So
yeah, but it would if you know this. If you know the show, though, if you know a show that accepts clips of people making tits of themselves and wants to make fun of them live on television, if you can make a buck off it, i.e., You've Been Framed. I don't know if you have You've Been Framed over there, but we had a show called You've Been Framed where people send funny clips.
is the American center for that.
The ridiculousness.
Exactly. So you send clips in. Yeah, somebody makes a tit themselves, you send the clip into You've Been Framed, and you make $100 off it. So yeah, it's not unfeasible to me that someone would do that, especially in Gotham. You got to bear in mind as well, all the time we are in Gotham. We're not in some of the cleaner cities of the world. If you look in comic book terms, Gotham is the pits. It is the most degenerate city in the world. So yeah, it does not bother me at all. Somebody wants to make a quick buck. They've got no morals, no scruples. They don't mind humiliating this man, and they know that this show won't mind humiliating them.
Yeah,
which is why they set it to begin.
Yeah, I think because of the way everything played out is why I feel like it didn't happen, because like the gunshot at the end there, and suddenly he's a hero, and people are crashing into his cop car to get him out, and like suddenly he's a savior. All right, he killed a couple of stockbrokers and a guy from TV, which I guess that might be the incel message, not the message, but how it could be interpreted as such, as yeah, us little guys are finally showing them, but I don't know. It just seems a little bit harder for me to believe some of it's real and some of it isn't, because there's so much that he thinks of that we see it from a different angle, that it's not that. So
I just think anytime that something isn't real, though, they show us. Like when he has that meeting in his head with Robert De Niro's character, and he becomes this like father figure and stuff. We clearly see that that's in his head. The film says, "Hey, it's in his head." And then the stuff with the girlfriend, we get specific scenes that say, "Hey, that was in his head. That was in his head. That was in his head." We get 3 different shots that show us those bits were in his head. I think anything that is in his head, it tells us, it shows us. Everything else you can take as gospel.
I'll need to pay attention to that a bit more.
Yeah. One more thing. We don't have to go in depth with this, but just to get a collective answer before we move on to Spider-Man. I'll go around the horn. What is now, if it's not too early to say, your favorite incarnation of the Joker? Brian, as far as actor playing him.
Okay, this is my favorite. Not, I don't believe in the whole notion of saying the best, because it's all a subjective thing. You can't possibly say that something is the best. How do you yeah. Subjectively, my favorite is still Heath Ledger. The reason for that is that he's just this. He's a force of nature. He comes in from out of nowhere. We don't know his history. It could be anything. You're free to make it up in your own head. And yeah, he causes chaos and then he leaves. And it's just a brilliant performance from Heath Ledger. It's kind of like the tentpole comic book villain that now everyone aspires to be better than. And yeah, I absolutely love Joaquin Phoenix's version. I think if anybody says that's better than Ledger's, or they prefer it over Ledger's, I understand that. I get that. I'm perfectly acceptable. But for me personally, I got to go with Ledger.
CP. Yeah, I'm with Brian. I mean, so much so that there's a couple of shots that feel very Ledger in Dark Knight, like when he's in the back of the cop car, and it's just like, wow, this looks familiar. Might be from the opposite end of the car, but very, very familiar. You know what you need to copy, replicate, outdo. It's different. It's very different. But Heath Ledger's Joker, like you got that like he was about chaos. Joaquin Phoenix's Joker seems to be, there's something's not adding up, and he's bothered. Where Heath Ledger, it was just like, this guy just doesn't care.
Yeah.
One of the things that I was very nervous about when they announced this film is that I'm a big subscriber to it's always scarier, more interesting when they don't tell us. That's always one of my issues with prequels, and I kind of take the same subscription with Joker. With the big thing that was always cool about Heath Ledger was the fact that we never got an origin, we never got an explanation. He just is, like Brian said, he's a force of nature. Make up whatever backstory you want, doesn't matter. I think that this story works very well for what they're going for, but I will always probably prefer not knowing to knowing. With that being said, my favorite is still Mark Hamill. I grew up with Batman animated series, so that was my Joker growing up. Mask of the Phantasm, all that stuff is just a big piece of when I was growing up. He's even gone on to do other animated Batman films, the Batman Arkham games, which are a big piece of my adulthood, because those are probably the best comic book games you're going to be able to play. So when I think of the Joker, I typically go towards Mark Hamill's incarnation first. So that's the one that will always have to compete with. So that one's still my favorite.
Are we?
Moving.
We're good with spoilers.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, so there it is, and we're back. We're back. We're okay now.
We are back. We are done with the Joker. Spent a lot of time on that one. There's a lot of thoughts to be had in that movie, and
Probably could go further too.
I was gonna say there's discussions that could even keep going further. It's a lot. There's enough ambiguous about that movie that it's a lot of discussion. We could go back and forth probably all day on the what's real and what is not alone.
Real
Spider-Man.
Real quick, I just want to say
we'll do that.
To those of you in the chat. I'm keeping track of the super chats. I'll read them out when we're doing the questions, so we're not forgetting about you. I'm writing them. I'm chat bitch, so just don't think you're being ignored. We're just going to do them all at the same time. That's
correct.
All.
Exactly. Just trying to keep some flow. Yeah. So next topic, going over to the light side of the universe, if you will. Spider-Man is back. So we had this whole issue where the contracts came to an end regarding Sony and MCU. They went into negotiations previous to this. If I'm not mistaken, Disney got 5% of the profits, plus a whole lot of other benefits, being able to use them in the MCU. I think they got merchandising rights. But nonetheless, they went in. Disney said, now we want 50. And Sony said, no. So for all intents and purposes, the deal was dead for weeks. And everybody was pissed off on the MCU side. A lot of people that, really liked the old Sony stuff was kind of happy about what happened. Nonetheless, didn't matter because we got maybe a week or so ago an announcement that they have rekindled their relationship. What was it, 25%?
Yeah, 25, and they put 25 in too. So it's a pretty decent
exactly.
deal.
So a much more equal deal. Before, I will go ahead and say at Disney we're being bullies. I know it's a hot word right now, but Disney was definitely being muscular in their negotiations. They were
swinging their weight.
So yeah, exactly. They're swinging their MCU around. So Spider-Man is back in the MCU, from what I understand. So it's 25% that Disney's putting into it, and they're getting out of it. Much better deal for them, and still a very good deal for Sony. They're making a deal for one more standalone Spider-Man film, and I believe one role in a MCU film, like an Avengers film or something like that. So I'm gonna go. I'll start this one off. Fuck it. So the first question that I have is: should Disney control so much? My answer to that is no. I really do like the MCU. I don't think that every single one of the movies are great, but I do think that every single one of the movies are at least good. Captain Marvel, wasn't a huge fan of that one. I thought that Guardians of the Galaxy 2 wasn't as nearly as strong as the first one. Iron Man 2, Thor 2, you can get into those. Those are probably the bottom of the barrel and still very watchable comic book movies. My issue with Disney controlling so much, which we already we're talking about a bit with Joker, is that I don't want every comic book film to feel like the MCU. MCU does not take risks like DC just did, like Fox has done numerous times with Logan, with Deadpool. So I was always a subscriber to Sony will do just fine with Spider-Man. Everybody likes to forget how great the Sam Raimi films were. Everybody loved those movies until we had the MCU. Now it's popular to trash them. I know people have their thoughts on the third one, but even if you just want to talk about the first two, those really kicked off the comic book genre. And I don't even think that the first Amazing Spider-Man was all that bad. I think that was actually pretty decent. It was just a little too soon. So I thought they would have done just fine with Spider-Man, and I was actually looking forward to seeing what they were going to do without having to worry about the MCU. Is he going to team up with Venom? Are they going to have a Venom movie? Is he going to have a Sinister Six or anything? And they possibly could still do all that because the whole inclusion of Venom and all the other movies they're doing is still a little bit muddy, whether or not they're going to be able to do it or not. But I think he could have survived just fine. And CP. I'll kick that over to you. Your thoughts on Spider-Man coming back to the MCU. Are you relieved about that? Were you more excited of him being able to do his own thing? Do you want Disney to control so much? Could he have survived without Disney?
My faith in Sony is not really there. It really is like a trick question. If I were so invested in comic property, I'd probably be more fired up that Spider-Man the Disney deal continues, because as far as I'm concerned, unless you want to keep moving that, Brian.
Just getting you back for a long time to rattle Chris packets.
That's what happens when he doesn't agree with what you're saying. He's like,
Unless they're gonna bring Sam Raimi back, I don't trust Sony with Spider-Man. I mean, they haven't made a decent. Spider-Man 3 was okay. It had moments, but
loves.
Do you really? You love Spider-Man 3?
I do. I acknowledge its flaws, but I think that the whole trilogy is very strong. I think that there's definitely mistakes in Spider-Man 3 that I could not defend or argue against, but I still think overall that movie is hated way too hard.
Yeah. Well, ever since then, Sony just doesn't seem like they know what they're doing with Spider-Man. And yeah, part of me wants, you know what, do one on your own. Do one without Marvel, and then let me see you do it by yourself. Take the training wheels off. Show me you can make a movie without Uncle Disney. And
do you not feel like their partnership with Disney has kind of made them learn some lessons to where they could make a better movie?
I hope so.
They look at the past. They look at the past. They go to Spider-Man 3. Okay, we're the example everybody gives for shoving too many villains in it. And then they go to reset the stage, and then they do it again tenfold in Amazing Spider-Man 2. So I think whenever they were working with Disney and they're working closely with Feige and everybody, I think that they would have taken some notes. But maybe I'm a little bit more optimistic.
Yeah, it's strange because Disney is such an entity. I mean, you see this with anybody else that wants to do comic property. It almost seems like they put too much pressure on themselves to make these great products that can be franchises and looking 3, 4, 5 films in the future, and then they just implode. I'm trying to think. Fox, Logan was great, but that was Fox. They backed into Deadpool, but as far as Sony is concerned, I haven't seen something from Sony since the MCU has started, which is what, 2008 for Iron Man. I'm not confident. Mm-hmm. I would like to see, give me one more chance to see what you can do by yourself. And I really hope they were taking notes, if not downloading hard drives while Feige was over there. But
did you enjoy Venom?
I did. I did. I like. But again, how much of that is just from copying notes and well, they weren't allowed to use. What were they allowed to use in Venom? They were allowed to use Carnage, Venom.
They were allowed to use Spider-Man characters. They just couldn't use Tom Holland in it, as far as I know. Yeah.
Okay.
But to me, that was kind of like their resume. Like, look what we're trying to do. And not a perfect film, but I really enjoyed Venom.
Disney helped not at all with that film, huh?
Not at all.
All right. Well, that was okay. Well, they're doing a sequel to that regardless. So let me. I'll get back to you. I don't trust them, but I'm not saying it's impossible. They did it before it was cool, with Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3 for those who are willing to forgive. But Disney's too much. It's a shame because they need competition. Congrats to Joker. I hope DC figures out, hey, the MCU has this cookie cutter family film version of comic movies down. Let's try something different. I mean, I don't think we're going to get that with Spider-Man. You could probably make an R-rated Venom and really get me going, but Spider-Man, I'm nervous. I'm happy that Marvel at least is still in control for a little bit.
Brian, thoughts?
Well, I mean, you've all pretty much said exactly everything I'd like to say, but
Finally beat you to one.
just, I mean, my personal thoughts are that competition is good.
Yes.
Competition is healthy. Even if Sony don't make films that are as good as Marvel. Just the fact that they're in the game, the fact that they're making money, because Venom made money, that pushes Marvel to do better. It pushes other companies to do better. So if you have one company that owns everything and they're going to make money regardless, there's no incentive there to push yourselves beyond the limit. So, as many mistakes as DC have made, arguably, in recent years, they've taken risks. They're the one. People would say that, oh well, they're just firing in the dark and hoping something hits. But you don't make a film like Joker without, that's a serious film that's almost French in its in its outlook on cinema. It takes risks. It's what is needed for the genre. It's what's needed to make people stand up and say, hey, you know what? Maybe as good as Marvel is, maybe it's not the only template out there that we should aspire to. And with the bucket load of money that it seems to be making, that can only be a good thing.
Can I ask you guys something? Do you think that, and again, I need to remind people watching, I'm neither a Marvel or a DC guy. If anything, I'm exhausted with comic properties. So you could call me one person or another. I'm really not. Do you think that maybe the Marvel name is getting it's getting like an extra 3 or 4 points just out the gate? Like if
Absolutely.
Captain Marvel were a DC property, how much would that movie just been wrecked?
It would have been slated.
Okay. All right, so there's this curve.
They have a big get out of jail free card in the fact that they've been the most successful for the longest, and it's like I said, I don't think that they have ever made a bad film, but they have certainly made some good ones that are just that. They're okay, that was fine. And the fact that you get every single movie that the MCU drops that gets, the Rotten Tomatoes score gets plastered everywhere like it's the greatest thing ever, and they get advertised out the ass at how great it is. I always walk into an MCU movie with tempered expectations and expectations of what I'm going to see, because they do very rarely deviate from that MCU formula, that MCU template. Like that was one of my biggest, right around the time that Doctor Strange came out, I started to really see it. That was one of my biggest issues with Doctor Strange, is I watched it and I'm like, this feels like Iron Man with Doctor Strange. And it's the same beats over and over again. And luckily you get films like Endgame or something like that really kind of go outside of that. And I hope that now that they've closed off an era, that they're going to challenge themselves more. Like when you got I think Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness, which is clearly taking some Carpenter inspiration with the logos, and it's going to be more horror filled. And supposedly, I'm hoping they're going to take more risks now that they know that their name is already going to get asses in the seats. Like they don't have to follow a formula to make sure everybody's cool with it. Shut the hell up, Lindsay. but I think that they're in a place now. I would like to see more risks from Marvel, and they certainly do. Like you said, that Marvel name, people automatically they want to give it the award before they even see it.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't mean to derail us with the topics.
No, you're good.
So on that, Brooke brought it up. I don't know if you had it in. Did you have Birds of Prey listed in our?
I didn't because we already kind of talked about it a little bit, I thought, on the last stream that we did. We can talk about it briefly if you want, though. I think I had put it in there a week ago or so whenever I had kind of announced the date. But yeah, we got a trailer for Birds of Prey if we want to talk about that briefly. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm the only one, it seems, on the planet who actually quite enjoyed that trailer.
Yeah.
I know, Cody, you hated it. Yeah, everyone that, yeah, when it came out, I came on YouTube, the trailer had popped up in my feed. I thought, ooh, Birds of Prey trailer. Clicked on it, watched it. I quite enjoyed it. It was just a nice bit of fun. Yeah, it was just fun for me. And then started checking out reactions, not watching them because I don't really go in for watching trailer reactions, but just like little snippets of what people were saying and stuff. It was just like everyone was just like, oh, it's crap. Oh, it's dog turd. Oh, it's just. And I'm like, oh, okay. Just me then. Look, it doesn't, it doesn't look like Joker level of brilliance. But it looks like it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing what Ewan McGregor's going to do with Black Mask.
That's the one thing I am looking forward to is the Black Mask. Yeah. I haven't been a believer in this project for years. At one point it was supposed to be called Gotham City Sirens. That was one of those. It was during the time when DC was announcing properties that they were going to do left and right and not getting a single one made. So that was one of the ones that stuck was Gotham City Sirens, and it was going to be Harley Quinn and a bunch of other characters. And then over time, they said, never mind, we're going to do a Joker and Harley movie with Jared Leto and Margot Robbie. And that was the one where I was like, good, so I can actually see what the fuck Jared Leto can actually do. So, and that was the part of Suicide Squad that I really quite enjoyed and wanted to see more of was those two together. Then that went off the rails. Then it was going to be a Harley Quinn standalone movie. And I'm like, well, of course, because she's the most popular DC character, arguably. Then that went off the rails. And then it was Birds of Prey. And I'm like, I don't know who the hell Birds of Prey are, but whatever. You're still just announcing shit left and right. And then it was Birds of Prey and Harley Quinn. And then they changed the title to whatever the fuck it is, Birds of Prey and the Emancipation of One Harley Quinn or something. And I was just like, whatever. I'll wait for the trailer. They said Ewan McGregor playing Black Mask. I'm like, okay, cool. Always wanted to see him in a Batman movie. I guess I'll settle for this. When you see the trailer to me is, hey guys, we are making a Harley Quinn movie. And it's Harley Quinn talking. It's Harley Quinn images. It's Harley Quinn jokes. It's Harley Quinn quips. And nothing from Birds of Prey. You see maybe a flash of here and there. The movie, the trailer told me nothing about what the story is going to be, what the movie's going to do. It felt like a music video, which just the reason why I don't respond to that is because that makes me think Suicide Squad. And Suicide Squad I enjoyed when I first saw it, and that's the one DC movie that I dislike more every single time that I watch it. And it just feels templated off of that. And I hope they learn their lessons, and I'll be there day one regardless what the hell I say. But the trailer didn't do anything for me. CP.
Hold on. Yeah, no.
Did we get a super
yeah,
chat?
I felt like she was kind of overdoing it with like her accent and her, I don't know, whatever it was she was in Suicide Squad. It just felt like
New York kind of
yeah,
thing.
it just felt like over the top and something that I might be reading into. I mean, they made such a deal of her being a sex symbol in Suicide Squad. It seems like they've kind of wandered away from that and are making the girl power thing this time around.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Doesn't seem like it's the same universe.
I feel like Margot Robbie could be the main problem with this, not because of her as an actress, because I think she's a great actress, but because of the fact that she's a producer on this.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like maybe she's having too
You don't say.
much control right now.
She has
with
too much
regards
control.
to
Is that what you said?
how, like when yes, Yes, just with Harley, she's got too much control of Harley as with regards to what they're doing with her. Um, yeah, I just think let actors be actors. Let them be directed by directors. I feel like when you've got an actor who is also the producer, who is steering the direction of the character,
the fanatic,
they still then have to work with a director on the set. So who is really in charge? You know what I mean? Because the director is now trying to direct the person they know is actually the producer. And there's a certain relationship that goes on between a director and a producer, and it's not the same as the relationship that goes on between a director and an actor. So for me, I think that could be where the biggest failing is. Again, nothing against Margot Robbie. She's a great actress, and nothing against her producing movies. If she wants to be a producer, that's great. Be a producer. But when you're producing the movie which you're starring in, there's certain issues that
it just feels very different.
A beloved character. Yeah.
Cool. Moving on to Evil Dead.
Yay.
All right, guys. So this was, I believe, Friday that I saw the news drop that Sam Raimi has confirmed that there is production going on a new Evil Dead film. Bruce Campbell is going to be the producer. I believe Raimi and Campbell were both producers of the Fede Alvarez one. But Bruce Campbell's going to be producing it, and they're looking for a new director, which tells me that they have not approached Fede yet, or he has not approached them, one or the other. I'm not sure. So I have two questions to go through, and I'm going to give this one to CP first. I think we've all been watching the Evil Dead films here recently, so we're very
I know what you're talking
very
about.
in the now. Yeah, exactly. So with your knowledge of the franchise, all four films, all the different directions they've taken, the different tones, the two questions I have is, one, what tone should they take? Should it be straight horror like the original or the remake? Should it be kind of a mix? Should it be a little bit more comedic like Army of Darkness? And the second question is an idea for a director.
Would you consider the original straight horror?
I would.
I thought it was a little camp, if anything.
I mean, it's a little campy, yeah, but I think that one, especially when you look at the three Sam Raimi films, that one leans the most on horror and trying to go a little bit more
fair.
dread.
Yeah. Not to give anything away, but I quite prefer the 2013 remake and really dug everything that was done there. If Fede Alvarez, isn't going to be around, I don't know, somebody visual that's in the horror genre, that's so difficult to. Does it? They don't have to. They're only directing, right?
Before Midsummer, I would have said Ari Aster.
Yeah, it would look at so.
That'd be a tonal
so
switch.
I'm gonna take the other side of the coin here. As long as somebody's writing it, let me see Rob Zombie direct Evil Dead 2.
No.
Somebody else writing it.
It doesn't matter. If somebody else will write it, he'll get hold of the script and chuck a load of F-bombs in there and some hillbilly character.
I haven't seen Three from Hell yet.
If Rob Zombie is put on a leash and kept in his lane, Brian, would you be up for that idea?
It has to be a long leash, a short leash, I should say. It should have to be a short leash. Really short leash. I'll give him a long one so he can hang himself with it. But
Oh man! All right, Brian. What tone should they take, and what's your idea for a director? Are you excited for this at all?
Like I said, if you give me Hereditary Ari Aster and not Midsummer Ari Aster, then Ari Aster. I'd say stick with the tone of the 2013 one.
But
I say do a direct.
Ari Aster twice has shown us his pacing is a bit deliberate. a little slow for Evil Dead. No, drawn out.
No, I think the pacing for Hereditary was spot on. I don't think there was any pacing issues with Hereditary. I think Midsummer, on the other hand, yeah, no, I didn't like the ending of Hereditary for obvious reasons, given my faith. But as far as an exercise in tension and horror and just putting you on the edge, yeah, it was brilliantly made, and it was very, as you say, it was very precise. He knew he seemed to know exactly what he was doing with it. Yeah, you give me that version of Ari Aster for an Evil Dead film, I'm all for it. Again, keep the tone of the Fede Alvarez one. Do it as a direct sequel to the Fede Alvarez one if you want. I really liked that one. It was, it was a good horror movie, but it also had something to say. I liked the way it kind of became a bit of an analogy of, going cold turkey on drugs and things like that. But yeah, it was good. That's all I've got to say, really. I don't know where you would take it with the sequel, because what have we done so far? We've had 3 films that are kind of set in a cabin in the woods kind of vibe about them, and then we've had one that's been a time travel movie that's been completely off its nuts, which, yeah, is what it is.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, do we?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with both of you. I pretty much agree with both of you as far as what tone. I loved Fede Alvarez, and I think that it's a shame if they're not talking to him to come back. So if we take him out of the conversation, what am I looking at?
No, I was. They're worried about the super chats, and I was just letting them know that I've got them.
Yeah, we got the super chats, guys. We're putting them all at the end. We're trying to just keep the show flow instead of stopping and stuff like that. So all of your questions will be answered, I promise. But yeah, I would like them to follow the tone, if not directly follow the story of the Evil Dead remake or the 4th sequel. You got some people that say because the car is there, it's a sequel. But nonetheless, that's the tone that I would take. Absolute gore fest, really good with the horror side, but also a little slapstick with how gory it is. I thought that was the perfect tone. Director ideas, if Fede Alvarez is out of the conversation, I'm going to go with a left field pick. I'm going to pick Lee Winnell. This is the guy who worked directly with James Wan to create the Saw franchise and the Insidious franchise. He did, I think he directed the 3rd Insidious movie, which I actually really liked, and he was the guy that brought us Upgrade, which was my favorite movie that year. And to me, that's what makes me think him, because Upgrade was very violent and gory, but it also had fun with its concept, and it also had some physical humor there. And I think that he would actually do pretty good with that, because he's got the experience with straight up horror, and he's gone off into his own like sci-fi different direction. So I think he would be cool.
Perfect choice, actually. Perfect choice, I think.
Oh my God!
Upgrade,
I want that in
Fede
writing.
Alvarez is a perfect
yeah,
choice.
it is. It's a perfect choice. Like, if you look at Upgrade as well, there's a lot of camera. There's a lot of. Just take your ice out, man. Yeah, there's if you look at Upgrade, there's a lot of stuff in that with like very kind of fast moving bodywork that it feels very Raimi-esque, I think. So yeah, no, I think that's a perfect choice. Yeah.
Awesome. Yep. So I guess you'll probably hear us talk about that the more that they develop it, guys, because Evil Dead's a pretty big franchise. I don't know if this is the 4th or 5th time that they've talked about doing a new movie. I'm not sure. I know Bruce Campbell, after Ash vs. Evil Dead was canceled, he said that he's retired from the character. We'll see. But if they're not going with Bruce Campbell and doing a direct sequel to Army of Darkness, and if Fede Alvarez isn't coming back, a lot of room for questions there.
That's not very smart. Sorry.
Yeah.
This year's 31 and 31st is getting pretty cocked up with the Collection 3 and a new Evil Dead and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
by the way.
There's always the future. There's always the future. There's more Halloween films coming. So I mean, no matter what we do, it's never permanent. All right, guys. Moving on to our last main topic before heading to post-mortem and getting to your viewer questions and your super chat questions. Eddie Murphy making a comeback. So I have not seen the film Dolomite Is My Name. I don't think any of us have. It premiered at Fantastic Fest, I believe. My buddy Sean saw it. He absolutely loved it, and he thought it was going to be terrible. He didn't know what to expect of it. So if you value Sean's opinion as a movie reviewer, if you're a fan of his, he gives it the thumbs up. That makes me very interested because we align tastes a lot when it comes to these old kind of 90s, 80s stars. Eddie Murphy kind of coming on a comeback. So he's got Dolomite Is My Name. It's already getting Oscar talk. People are saying it's the best he's ever been, or at least the best he's been since the 80s. It's kind of like the disaster artist for blaxploitation films, from what I'm hearing. Very interested in that. We have already known that we've got Coming to America 2 coming down the pipe. They're either in the middle of shooting it or wrapped it up, but that is coming. And he's announced that after Coming to America 2 has wrapped up, not only is he in talks with Netflix to have some stand-up specials, which is probably the the biggest thing that I'm excited for. Beverly Hills Cop 4, the long gestating sequel to Beverly Hills Cop 3. This has gone through so many different directors and forms of story. I think they tried to pop it off 2 or 3 times. Then it got turned into a TV series that they filmed a pilot for. The pilot got rejected. And then Eddie Murphy was, kind of all but disappeared from the world for a while. So I guess my questions for you guys, and I'll open this one up too, and then I'll pass it up to you. Is the questions I have is: do you want a 4th film? Is Eddie in fact back? Do you feel like that Eddie reconnaissance is on the cusp? And what is your favorite Murphy film? So, do I want a 4th film? I do, if it follows the tone of the first 2. Beverly Hills Cop 3, I enjoyed a lot as a kid. I don't enjoy it as an adult. It's much more goofy. It's not nearly as serious. The fact that they took Taggart out of it just felt like a giant stab in the heart to a lot of the flow of those first 2 movies. So if they can recapture some of the greatness of those first 2 movies, then I'm all for it. If they're not just doing it to bank off of the name because everybody recognizes Beverly Hills Cop. And if he does well with this Dolomite thing, and I like that, and if Coming to America especially is really good, then I'll have all the confidence in the world that Eddie Murphy is doing it because he believes in it, not because that's the biggest paycheck he's going to have for a while. Is Eddie back? I don't know if he's going to be back in the forefront like he was in the 80s, but I'm glad that he's getting things made that make sense for Eddie Murphy to do, because how many decades have we seen Eddie Murphy do things where it's just Daddy Day Camp or the movie where he wasn't allowed to fucking speak? All these weird choices. What was the movie that was like the biggest flop in the world at one point?
Nash?
Pluto Nash. These are movies that I haven't seen, by the way. So
nobody did.
There was, yeah. I'm glad that he's getting back to material that fits him. This Dolomite thing sounds interesting. On paper, it doesn't really ring my bell, if you will, but people saying that it's really good makes me interested in it. Coming to America, I love. Beverly Hills Cop, I love. So anything, as long as it's going to be good, if he's getting back into that swing of Eddie Murphy, we'll see. Is Eddie back? I'll wait till I hear the Netflix stand-up specials, because to me, that's always when Eddie Murphy was strongest as a comedian, was when he was up on stage. And my favorite Murphy film is actually probably going to be a strange pick for a lot of people. My favorite of his has always been The Golden Child. I love The Golden Child. I grew up watching it. I think that it's hilarious. I love the mix of comedy and fantasy. It kind of goes for that Big Trouble in Little China thing. Some of the lines in that movie I quote all the time. My sweet dear brother Noomsy. Like, I love that movie to death. So, Brian, I'm going to pass this one off to you. Do you want a 4th Beverly Hills Cop? Is Eddie Murphy back? And what's your favorite Murphy film?
I'm not fussed about a 4th Beverly Hills Cop. No, Eddie Murphy is not back, and it's very hard to give a favorite because I don't really like him all that much.
you hit it very well while I was speaking. I was like, I'm going right to Brian.
Possibly 48 Hours. Yeah, either the first Beverly Hills, either the first Beverly Hills Cop or 48 Hours. Everything else to me has been a bit, yeah, whatever.
Not your taste.
Beverly Hills Cop, like the first two Beverly Hills Cop films, we watched a lot as kids. We were quite excited for the third one, but even as a kid, when that came out and I watched it, it was awful. The tone of it was so different. It was like,
yeah, very.
It was like a bad fan film. Yeah. So, but yeah, and like you said, if you can recapture the magic of the first one, then it'll be something I will enjoy watching. But I'm not like doing laps because they've announced Beverly Hills Cop 4 or anything. Is Eddie Murphy back? Well, Dolomite's only got a 6.5 currently on IMDb, so it's not exactly setting the world alight from what we can see from a critical standpoint. Yes, he might be quite good in it. The last time we had this talk was when he did Dreamgirls, and it was like, oh, Eddie Murphy was really good in Dreamgirls. It's a comeback. And it's like, no, then he made Norbit. So, no.
You know what movie of his everybody overlooked? And even though it is it does lean a little bit on the hokiness of a feel-good chick flick, I thought he was really good in Mr. Church. I don't know if either of you guys saw that. It's where you got he's brought in as a paid cook for a woman who's dying of cancer, and it's about the relationship that he builds with her daughter over time. And he is really good in that one. Like I said, the movie, it definitely plays into those tropes of a chick flick. And if you're not into that tone of a movie, it might not be for you, but I thought that was probably the best that I've seen him was in that one, and nobody talked about it at all. That movie came and went.
Give me the questions again.
CP. Do you want a fourth Beverly Hills Cop? Is Eddie Murphy on the cusp of coming back? And what's your favorite Murphy film?
I don't think you can do another Beverly Hills Cop because that genre is so saturated with things like it. Rush Hour and the buddy cop thing has kind of been done. Granted, it's Eddie Murphy holding the show when it comes to Beverly Hills Cop. I think that genre is just so weird. Something like that would feel kind of Dumb and Dumber 2-y to me.
Certainly could.
Yeah. Is he back for the same reasons that Brian said? Let's hold on a second. I'm more fired up about Coming to America 2 if and when that happens. But again, could be very Dumb and Dumber-y. And I have a very close tie. It depends on the mood I'm in. Coming to America is my favorite, but Bowfinger is a movie I really, really quite enjoy, and I feel like that's quite underrated. It's fun, it's hokey, it's silly, it knows what it is, and
that's one that it seemed like when it came out, everybody loved that movie for that it seemed, at least from what I could tell. The everybody that I knew, it was like a 7-8-year-old kid, which was like my parents and my teacher.
Well, my brain, so
yeah. Yeah. My dad always told me, because my dad saw it and he was like, oh, that's not for me. And I didn't actually watch Bowfinger until I think like 2 years ago. I bought it because it came out on Blu-ray and it was cheap as hell, and I watched it. Wasn't for me necessarily, but I do love Coming to America though. That's to me like he gets a lot of points for Nutty Professor playing all the different characters, but Coming to America is where that really started. Yeah, that movie's great.
Filmmaker in
Sexual chocolate.
The filmmaker in me likes Bowfinger because that is what it's like.
Reminder of how not to
yeah,
make
that's basically what it's like. That's what I was doing. Like, quick, shoot here. Everything's guerrilla style and just.
in the same way that Stanley Kubrick's first film gives me hope as a filmmaker, Bowfinger inspired.
Did I say the word inspire? I said it reminded me. I didn't say inspired.
It inspires.
Oh man. So yeah, time will tell. Coming to America 2 is definitely going to be the tipping point as far as his movie career, but I am very excited, regardless what movies he does, that he's coming back to stand up, because that's something where he left it as the king, as far as I'm concerned.
If I can just talk about his stand up for a second, that is something that I think, for you want to talk about society. Dave Chappelle has got his own thing right now, and he's pretty close. Bill Burr's pretty close. Joe Rogan's pretty close. But, you know, when I was growing up, people that led me to want to do stand-up was Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor, and George Carlin. If Eddie Murphy can somehow get back to being, you know, R-rated, you know, Eddie Murphy Delirious, Eddie Murphy Raw, and have it be somehow linked to things that are relevant today, oh, that'll be just so refreshing. It doesn't even have to be, you know, 5 stars. If we can get vintage Eddie Murphy in today's day and age, like,
yeah, fuck it, I make fun of everybody. Eddie Murphy.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't want to talk about stand-up or movies here. I just thought it's important.
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm really excited about that. I hope it doesn't take too long to do it, because if he recaptures even 3/4 of that, that's like back in competition with the leaders of today in comedy. That's it for our main topics. Do you want to go ahead and start off with the super chat questions? We'll do those, and then we'll move on to the post-mortem questions.
So before we even started, thank you to Tony Movie 9 Mendel. He dropped $5 and said, hey, since you're with Cody, can you talk about what you would like Disney to do with the Fox properties?
Oh, what a loaded question. Not MCU them. Is that an answer? I'm scared to death that they're going to make Deadpool PG-13 and try to shove him into the MCU and everything. Here's my thing with the Fox properties. I don't know how the hell you're going to do it, because there's going to be a lot of explaining to be done. If you can successfully, writing-wise, get the X-Men into the MCU, I'm fine with it. You're going to have a lot of explaining about where the hell they've been this whole time, mutants versus superpowers. There's a lot of muddiness. The comics did it. I don't know if movies can do the same thing. But X-Men, if we're not continuing the Fox storyline, which we're obviously not, then might as well throw them in the MCU somewhere. I feel like they need to keep certain properties out of the MCU, though. I think Deadpool is just fine doing his own thing. I don't think he needs to show up in Avengers. I think that they should do things like Logan, like little standalone one-off films once in a while with this plethora of characters like Doctor Doom and Fantastic Four that they've gotten now. Fantastic Four, speaking of them, they can easily go in the MCU. Doctor Doom, you can easily put him in the MCU. He can be one of the big new bad guys. That'll work just fine. But X-Men, I'm a little worried about how they're going to explain that. And Deadpool, I think they need to just let Deadpool run its course as long as Ryan Reynolds wants to play him, and then worry about what you're going to do with him. Leave it exactly how it is.
They can acknowledge it in Deadpool, because they do the whole breaking the fourth wall and stuff anyway. So with Deadpool, it's fine. I mean, in the first one, he mentioned, when he talked about somebody mentioned Professor Xavier, and he was like,
McAvoy or Stewart?
McAvoy or Stewart. And, so it's like they're free to do whatever they want in Deadpool. So there's no big deal really there with regards to that. So yeah, are we just talking comic book properties? Or are we
bastard,
talking all
don't want to. Go on. No, he says Fox properties. So
Fox properties, because my biggest fear now.
Oh yeah, I missed that whole thing. Yeah, I went right to X-Men.
You got
no. My biggest fear is Alien.
Die Hard.
Really, I know a lot of people weren't that old. I loved it. I loved Prometheus. I loved Covenant. I really wanted Ridley Scott to finish David's story. I wanted to get to the end of David's story. Just just
Go ahead. I'm just fucking with you.
yeah, I know you are, but I don't. Again, like you say, don't MCU it, don't Disneyfy it, don't let R-rated properties be R-rated properties.
Yeah.
Let Alien be Alien.
I wish
Predator.
I wish Disney would have its own like Fox
Just
studio,
bring back
or Fox
Touchstone
production
or something
company
like that, and let
something where yes, you still get the money, but it's not Disney.
Right.
Like it's not Disney's
Right.
Alien. It can be owned like Miramax was at
Right.
one point, or they still are owned by Disney. Like you can make Pulp Fiction and not have it be Disney's Pulp Fiction. Like. Yeah, I'm with you. I totally skipped over Fox properties, Die Hard, all that, and went right to like, don't leave Deadpool alone.
Brian stole my answer. Predator, Alien, Die Hard, all the really fun R-rated stuff. Somebody better do something.
Mm-hmm. Planet of the Apes.
Oh yeah.
We'll see.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Planet of the Apes is done. That trilogy is perfect. I don't care for the old films. The new trilogy it's in my top 5 trilogies of all time.
Do you know it just hit me that Fox owns Avatar now.
Mm-hmm.
Are you?
Well, Avatar has been at Disney World and shit for years, so I mean they've always kind of mingled. But yeah, they own Avatar, Star Wars, the MCU.
Yo.
They are going
Pixar.
to own the planet in a few years' time. Disney basically own the planet now. So yeah,
Go watch Mission Impossible. Hang on, Paramount. We got you.
Hang in
Don't
there.
be a pussy, Warner Brothers. Oh man, what's next, CP?
All right, so
Any
Maurice
more,
the Beast
chats?
dropped 2. He dropped $1, and then he dropped a $2 one, saying, "Bring back the Axel Foley laugh," in regards to. Yeah, I'm not going to do either.
That's like that.
The Will Meister dropped 2 of 2 each. Cody, are you going to review Evil Dead 2013?
I already have. So that one, it was recent enough to where I have no need to revisit it or redo it or update my production on it. Nothing has changed about my thoughts. So Evil Dead 2013, you can actually look at my channel right now. It's from not even a year ago. I reviewed that for a Patreon request. So I'm going to be reviewing the 3 Raimi films, and then I'm done with Evil Dead for right now.
Happy Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody watch Birds of Prey on CW, the TV series on CW?
Negative.
Is this the old one? The one from early
I think
90s?
there's a new one. Because I've seen screenshots where people are comparing the costumes of CW versus this DC movie and already saying that the CW looks better.
Oh, right. Because I own the old one on an imported DVD. It's not a great series, but Mia Sara was pretty good as Harley Quinn. It did have a pretty good ending. 13 episodes. It's not great, but I do kind of have a bit of a soft spot for it. As for a new one, I didn't know about it, so no, I've not seen it.
Motorcycle US $2 says, "What's so bad with good movies? Not waste my money then."
Okay.
Yeah. Please re-specify. What's so bad with good movies? Not waste my money then.
I'm not sure what that question is.
Motorcycle. If you want to re-specify, I'll look for you in the chat. Just clarify what you mean, please. I promise I'll find your name in the chat. But we're a little confused by this question here. So, Motorcycle US, thank you, and please divulge further. Glenn Parson, $2, thank you. He says, CP,
Whoa, wow.
that should have been me. CP, was that a shout out in Big Mouth? I don't know. It seems to be more so than it's a coincidence, believe it or not. But I don't have confirmation. But it does look like it's a shout out. So they mentioned.
What is it?
It's a Netflix cartoon series. Right off the bat, there's a guy who's doing a stream, and he says that he instead of thinking he does a stream and just blurts whatever the hell he wants, and one of the guys says shout out to CP, and then they hold a Kangol hat within a couple of minutes of the thing. It's
Is it somebody that you know who's tied with the show, or you just think that they watch you? That's
So
kinda cool.
I've worked with a lot of I need to find out who the writers are, because I know writers that do punch up on stuff. So there's a chance it's an incredible coincidence, but there's actually, I would say it's a 50-50 chance it's a legit shout out, but nobody's told me yet, which is kind of fucked up if they didn't ask my permission, but whatever. But
motorcycle clarified. Read his question again.
Where did it go?
Says Cody said the Marvel movies are just good, but what was his question again?
What's so bad with good movies? Not waste my money then.
Well, I don't know. I still don't exactly know what you're asking, but if you're saying what's so negative about it being just good, it's just the fact that it feels like they don't really push to go better than that a lot of times. It feels like they stick with their template, they put a new character in, they put the movie out, and they know that it's going to be successful, so why make it something that really stands out? We'll just do what we've been doing for 10 years with this character.
Yeah, you could have a good burger every day of the week, but at a certain point, let me have a steak or something. Let me have some, good, another good burger.
Yeah.
I think it's just he's just because you said they make just good movies. I think he's just saying so what's wrong with that?
Yeah. There's nothing wrong.
The problem is there's nothing wrong with that. It's just the only problem is that those good movies, because it follows a particular template. Yes, it's going to be good, but it also becomes predictably so. Like it's you know what you're getting. You know exactly what you're getting, and every once in a while you want a nice surprise. So you go and you see Joker, for example, and it's very different. It's very good, but it's very different. It's not good because it follows the template that we're used to. It surprised us, and that makes it not just good, it makes it better than good. It makes it special. So yeah, I love good movies. I want good movies. I'd rather movies be good rather than bad. But if they can be phenomenal because they're surprising, they're different, they're edgy, then yeah, give me those.
So Felix dropped 2 in the super chat. Thank you. He said, what about Guillermo del Toro for Evil Dead? And then I have a correction on the Evil Dead review question.
Yeah, I responded to him in the chat.
Okay.
I saw that one. Yeah. I'm not reviewing that one. I forget what the name of it is, but yeah, his little template that he sold his idea of Evil Dead for to get funding. Yeah, I'm not going to review that.
And that's
sticking to the movies.
And that's us caught up. And Felix del Toro is way too ambitious.
Visual.
Hang on, sorry.
What's up, Brian?
I existed. There's another Evil Dead film, like a prequel. What?
No. It was like a short film that he made with his own money, I believe, with Bruce Campbell. Oh shit, where'd he go? Are we still live?
Huh?
Yeah, I think so.
Your video went away on my end. CP.
Hi, I'm here. Hello?
Can you hear him?
Yeah,
I can see him.
Can you hear me? I have big testicles.
Yeah. I can hear you and I can see you. Can you not
All I
see
see
him,
is Brian and his. Anyway, okay. Well, if everybody can see him, I'll shut up. But no, he if I'm not mistaken, he did like a short film with Bruce Campbell that's not quite Evil Dead, but that was what he used to get funding for Evil Dead, saying this is what I'm going for. So it was kind of like a little precursor thing. So no.
Okay.
Good. Doing that one. And Del Toro, I think the guy's visually very good. I don't think he's so. I don't know if he would be my first pick at all for Evil Dead. I would certainly watch it. I'd be intrigued. A lot of times his films seem to be style over substance for me. I don't know if anybody feels different.
And we're I know I'm
and if we're
caught
caught
up. I didn't know you had something to add.
No, I with regards to Del Toro, I think he's a very good director. He knows what works visually. There are a couple of his films that I do think are astounding, and there are some of his films that I feel are just a little bit overrated. But yeah, I like the dude, but I don't think he's a right fit for Evil Dead.
Now Brian and Cody is glitching.
Oh, great.
I still don't see you, CP. You. I had both of you in a split screen, and then Brian took over the whole on at the top. So I don't know if something. It says Cody's glitching like crazy.
We're all there. In the stream, but
is it going to screw you up if I hang up and redial
Absolutely.
It will. All right. Well, we'll try to just muscle through the questions then.
You know what? You know what? Do it. Sign out and sign back in.
Okay. Give me just a minute.
So I will go to you, Brian. Brian.
Okay. Nick, who just gave a super chat, thoughts about Drew Goddard for Evil Dead. I'd say that's a very good. I think given what he did with Cabin in the Woods.
I'm back.
Okay.
I can see you again.
I'm just talking about Drew Goddard as a pick for Evil Dead. That's a super chat from Nick, and yeah, I think it's a good choice. I like Drew Goddard. I like. Is it 2 movies he's done now? Did El Royale and Cabin in the Woods?
El Royale is brilliant. That movie.
Really good film. It's a bit of a slow burn at the start. It takes a while to get going, but once the
impressive,
once the pieces start coming together, it's a very good film. And I do like Cabin in the Woods. So yeah, I'd be up for Drew Goddard, both writing and directing an Evil Dead film. I think he'd do justice to the script if he wrote it as well. But yeah.
I wouldn't sneeze at that pick. But then again, he wouldn't be my first choice. I like Cabin in the Woods quite a bit, but that was templated off of Evil Dead kind of and just given a very big spin. I liked El Royale. I wasn't as hot on it as CP was, or I guess both of you were. I thought it was very, very Tarantino fan.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The way that movie was made. So to me, that was what I saw most of it. But I still enjoyed it. But yeah, I mean, not a bad pick.
Guys, I don't know what the issues were, but when Skype gets a little snippy, the audio certainly goes off sync. And we've had issues before, but although people are saying it's better now, so if it's only the audio, say that, because that's Skype. But otherwise, of course, let us know.
Motorcycle US. Sorry, I didn't skip it. I assumed CP had written that one down because, and I just went with the Drew Goddard one because it was something I felt I could talk about there and then.
When did it happen?
Yeah.
Was it while I was fixing things?
It's right here.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So like Motorcycle US said, will the Marvel horror movies be worth watching? I didn't jump straight on that one because I'll be perfectly honest, I'm not entirely sure what the Marvel horror movies are.
I haven't heard of Marvel doing any horror films at all. The most that I've heard is that the next Doctor Strange is supposed to have a more horror influence. That is it. I don't know if there's Marvel horror movies that they've announced, which I highly doubt because I think I would have seen that. Or if there's some kind of a TV series or what. You'd have to clarify, Motorcycle.
Yeah, if you could list them for us, what they are supposed to be. But yeah, I mean, I know Fox had some in the wings, didn't they? One that got pushed back, and what was
New
that
Mutants.
one? Yeah, New Mutants. I know New Mutants
Best
was
of
one,
luck.
and yeah, we're probably not going to see that now. But I mean, they released trailers for that and everything, and now it just seems to be buried because
it's done. The movie's done.
Yeah, done and dusted. But yeah, so with regards to actual Marvel horror movies, I don't know.
Yeah.
So what were some of those other super chats, CP, the ones you had written down?
I think we're caught up on super chats. I think we're moving on to post-mortem now, aren't we?
Yep. We're caught up.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Do it.
So the first post-mortem question. Pretty simple question, but it could actually be a whole video. We've had a bunch of those already, so. I would love for you guys to pick your favorite A24 film, A24 horror film, and discuss. Seems like nobody ever has the same answer to this, and they all have great quality, but each has a different string. Interested to see what you guys come up with, and can't wait for Sunday. Cross Caldwell sent that. Thank you, Cross.
Mine, it's certainly more sci-fi than horror, but it's a very horrifying situation and story, especially with where things end up. I was looking through the list, and the one that jumped out, I was like, ooh, is Ex Machina. I really love Ex Machina. I love the story. I like the effects in it. I like the fact that it's very, it's simple, but it's very, like, the best sci-fi is realistic and something you could certainly see happening. So that one is my pick.
Brian?
For me, I've got to go with Under the Skin. Again, like Cody says, it's probably more sci-fi than horror, but it definitely has a horror element. There's some really horrific stuff in it, actually, just from a visual standpoint. But as a film, my goodness. The director of that, Jonathan Glazer, it's his third film, and if the guy keeps going the way if he carries on making the films in the way that he's making them, then he's next in line to Kubrick, I would say. I know that's too early, but yeah, certainly on the strength of Under the Skin, from a visual standpoint and a storytelling standpoint. He's probably the closest challenger to Kubrick's throne right now. If you've not seen Under the Skin, seriously watch it. It's a mind
for more reasons than one.
Yes,
you took it.
Yes.
You could be the asshole.
I'll own it.
Yeah,
it's very good. Like there's a lot of scenes. So for those who don't know, it's about an alien,
Scarlett Johansson,
played by Scarlett Johansson, who comes down to Earth, to Scotland of all places, and starts looking for mates, and then she takes them back and kind of devours them in a way. But then she starts to develop human qualities, and I'll say no more than that. But it's an incredible film. Just like they shot a lot of scenes at the start where she's going around Scotland and she's picking up these guys, and they just,
she gets naked.
They just did it. They hid cameras in the van.
Black Widows come out.
And Scarlett Johansson went out and picked up these guys, and a lot of them just didn't even realize it was Scarlett Johansson. So there's a lot of scenes like that are very realistic, and it's just again, from a visual standpoint, it is just staggeringly good.
It's trippy too. It's a bit trippy.
Yeah. Ex Machina would definitely be my second choice. It's very, very close to being my first choice, but yeah, Under the Skin, I have to give that film a mention.
Awesome.
Yeah, and Dennis, you're a jerk. I feel like changing it because Dennis said it.
I was gonna say you did change the pick.
But Dennis in the chat there, it's green room for me. Really, really. I don't want to say a fun movie, but it shit all pops off. This hard rock or maybe punk band plays. They get a gig at a skinhead establishment, and a paid gig's a paid gig, and they do their thing and accidentally witness a murder, and they're not allowed to leave, and then it really pops off, and Stewart as an absolute total dickbag bad guy. It was quite pleasant to see. I mean, of course, you have why is Anton Yelchin? I wouldn't say it's one of his best performances, but it's a really it's horror-ish. I could see people saying it's not very horror. It's just people trapped that are trying to get out of a place. But I think that's isolation. That's one of the big things of horror, and just things go terribly worse, and they try their best to get out of a place. And that's that. I would have said something else now that Dennis said it. So
it's a good film. It's good.
It is. It really is. If it counts as horror, I'm counting it.
Of course it does. Absolutely.
So question 2. Hey guys, love the stream. Thank you. Just wanted to ask if any of you would like to see this incarnation of the Joker go up against Batman, or do you think it's better left as a standalone? Says David G.
I think it's better left as a standalone, because it would have to be a very, very, very different Batman movie to fit that tone. Not saying that I wouldn't watch it, or if they announced today that it's going to be a totally different non-Robert Pattinson Batman doing this, I would be curious if nothing else. But when people see a Batman movie, they tend to want action-centric comic book film, and I don't think that this Joker fits with that. So I would rather it just be his own thing, and Batman movies can be Batman movies.
I'd love to see him go up against Batman. I'd love to see. Of course, I would. Absolutely. I think
see Iron Man go against him.
I think.
And Jordan Peele directs it.
Kiss my ass. No, I think Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, this Joker, would actually fit very well in Nolan's trilogy. I think you could swap out Ledger's Joker and put this one in, because you've got to bear in mind this is the very early stages. This is how Joker is born. From this point on, he's off the rails. He doesn't care anymore. He's just before this he had some kind of still had a foot in humanity, in society. When we leave this film, by the end of it, he could very easily take up the mantle of Heath Ledger's Joker, where he no longer cares, and it's all about seeing the funny side of death and chaos and destruction. And 20 years from now, at least, because that's what he's going to be. Bruce has got 20 years before he becomes Batman. Yeah, this Joker is going to be very different, very much more psychotic. He's going to have killed a lot more people. He's going to have done a lot more heinous stuff. So yeah, I'd love to see him go up against Batman. I do think he would fit in a Batman that is very similar to Nolan's. So yeah, go for it. Why not?
So for future reference, guys, if you have any sort of DC questions, just realize that we're going to be here a while. That That's the only thing I could say.
And if you have any-
They had a question, I answered it.
yeah.
Okay,
To
I'm sure they
address-
don't want me to be monosyllabic and just give one word answer.
Well, mine's going to be
Insulting.
no. No.
There you go.
No, I like it by itself.
To address the chat, if you have any political questions, you're not going to be here for very long.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
You're on the
Moving
wrong
on
show.
from that.
Movies, guys, movies.
yeah. Next.
Was that 3? Hi, AutopStream. Thank you for a very interesting concept and show. My question to you is, what movie ended an actor/actress's career, and what movie revived the same actor/actress's career? That's from Neko Chan, I think, is how to pronounce
This was a tough one to think of an actor that's had both,
That's
but I'm going to
rebounded?
kind of be looking
Yeah.
into the future for a bit. Pulp Fiction brought back John Travolta, and I think The Fanatic might take him away for a while.
That's backwards, though, isn't it? Isn't that? Wait.
Yeah, that's the only way I can find an answer to the question. I don't know of an actor that's lost a career because of a movie and then came back to the A-list. I mean, you think about Robert Downey Jr., he lost it because of drugs, not because of a movie. Usually I could think of actors that had some kind of other reason why they were gone. I couldn't think of a movie that was it for that person.
I mean, John Travolta, he's done it twice because he did have a career long before Pulp Fiction. He was a very, very successful actor, and then he kind of disappeared down the toilet making just bad movies, basically. Almost like he didn't. It wasn't until Tarantino came along and got him going again. So, yeah. I don't know with that one, I'm afraid.
I'll chime in
Stevie.
while you're gasping. Halle Berry in
that's what I was just about.
well, help me out here.
You guys are so cute.
Her
yeah,
rebound is what?
well-
John Wick 3? Like, what is it?
John Wick. Like, I mean, she had Monsters Ball where she
I was gonna
won
say, was that before
the
or after?
Oscar for best
Yeah, I guess
actress.
Oscars are
and
rebounds.
then the following year, she won the Raspberry for worst actress for Catwoman. That film really dented her career. She's been on a bit of a rough ride for quite some time, and then a couple of years back she did The Call, which I know isn't a staggeringly great film, but
It was decent.
It was decent, and there was a lot of talk around there that actually it's nice to see Halle Berry acting again and seeming like she gives a toss again. And now, with the recent, getting in John Wick Chapter 3 and that there's hope that actually her career might take off again. So I don't know. Yeah, maybe one to watch, possibly.
Yeah, I don't think Mel Gibson had a movie that ended his career, but Mel Gibson had a
More erased.
yeah. Mel Gibson had a driving issue.
That was the hard part. I could think of plenty of actors that went
Yeah.
away, but it was never because
Yeah.
the movie was so bad.
Yeah, I mean Robert Downey Jr.
All right.
In the late '90s,
outside.
and then he's Iron Man for Pete's sake. Oh boy, Pacino, De Niro, Nicholson, Brando. Which of these movie giants takes the crown? Also, what's your favorite movie ending? From Ashley Pogson.
I'm going with De Niro on that one. De Niro, I think, has sustained his career. Well, I mean, you could say Nicholson probably. He's sustained being in the public eye longer than Pacino has. Pacino's kind of gone away. But De Niro, most of my, if I'm going to look at the catalog of all the actors, my own personal preference, more De Niro movies are in my favorites than Pacino's or Brando's or Nicholson's. Nicholson's probably had the most spotless career of maybe the four. I can't think of movies where people are thinking that Nicholson's terrible.
He works
He
the
kind
least out of all of them too.
Yeah, I mean, but even recently, you look back at like The Departed, and that was an Oscar-winning film.
No, Brando didn't have, he didn't have like tons under his belt. I think the rest of the people on the list have done more than Brando. So
De Niro's probably made the most bad movies of all of them because he's been in the most movies, as far as I can think off the top of my head. But like I said, it's just for me, like when I look at movies like Midnight Run and Goodfellas and things like that, most of his movies and his roles skyrocket to the top. If I look at Pacino, it's Scarface, it's Heat, which
Godfather 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Like if you look at Heat as well, which is kind of like the last. It was like the end of their mid-career where they both finally came together. After Heat, I can reel off quite a few Pacino films I actually enjoy considerably, and with De Niro, he took a nosedive with his choices.
The 21st century. The 21st century has been horrible.
For a good 10 years at least. It wasn't until Stardust that he kind of reminded people that there was something there. But even that was, is essentially mocking himself, really. I think the last 20 years haven't been great to De Niro. I think he's starting. He mainly started to get that back when he began to work with David O. Russell in films like Silver Linings Playbook and American Hustle and things like that. But for me, consistency, I'd have to go with Al Pacino, because even his film work, which to me I still prefer. I prefer a lot of Pacino's stuff.
Pacino of Jack and Jill. That Al Pacino. Okay.
Yeah, that
88 minutes.
Yeah. Everyone can find one.
No, I know.
Man.
Just want a Don Pacino, an Al Pacino. Sorry.
There's a lot of movies by Pacino that I love. I'm a big fan of Frankie and Johnny as well, which, as far as a chick, I think he's done more.
Sea of Love. It's a good one.
Yeah.
Cruising.
I mean, just trying to look on my shelf now, but it's just
the Pacino shelf.
I mean, for me, Heat is it's one of my favorite films of all time. But I think Godfather Part 1. You look at him in that, some of the stuff he's doing in that. Dog Day Afternoon.
Sal.
What was that face? Was that face?
No.
I've never been a fan of that movie. It's yeah. I need to watch it again as an adult, I guess. It was always a little off kilter for me when I watched it.
Sal.
Not saying he's not awesome in it.
If we're talking about performances, just like as an actor, for me personally, it's Pacino. I do think he's been more consistent, to be honest, and he also has done a lot of theatre work as well, and he's been good in that by all accounts. I'm not the biggest theatre goer, but if you look at critically, he's done quite a bit of stuff theatre-wise that he's been quite acclaimed for. So, I don't know. But for me personally, as a performer, I gravitate more towards Pacino. So, yeah.
Consistency, I'll say Pacino, but hits hard. The hardest hitter, I think, would be De Niro.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen enough of Marlon Brando, so...
Yeah, I can't really speak much on Brando at all. I've seen a good bit of Nicholson, but there's still a lot of those like Chinatown. I still haven't seen, like one of the big ones that he's known for.
On the Waterfront is one of my favorite films of all time. Highly recommend.
I recently saw, and I know this is one of those movies. It's like, how did you just recently see this for the first time? One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and that was damn good. Not that that's a hot take at all, but that was like, wow, this is really good.
Look at you go for clickbait.
Yeah, no shit, guys. I've got a review coming. You're not gonna believe it. Dusted off this old obscure hit.
This is Johnny Utah. My question is, why are Michael, Freddy, and Jason the top 3 in the horror genre? And then I put an FBI agent. Because it's Johnny Utah.
Michael Myers kind of kicked off the '80s era of slasher icons. So that's why, and that's probably the best movie, the first Halloween, if we're going to talk objectively, of the big three, is the first Halloween. It's not my favorite, but there's that. Jason was probably the most prominent because he made the most movies. There was one a year for, what, 8 years? And Freddy, to me, has a more psychological edge to where that was one that was so unique and genuinely like terrifying as a concept that he really kind of rose up there too. And each of them kind of have their own unique look that is very iconic. I mean, that.
Yeah. Jason was the prehistoric Saw. I mean, Saw. There was one every October. Then it was Paranormal Activity. You make a movie for $1 and you take home 3. There wasn't much to it. They exploited a pocket, and this is. I mean, the interesting question is why did they stick out so much? It's hard to explain. Why did they take off, and why not Child's Play? Why not Critters? Why,
it's about fandom, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like. It's if look at you and go cha cha cha, and boom, you know exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Then that's something that is it's become ingrained in the mind of pop culture. Whereas if I ask you to do that with Child's Play, throw a few beats of the music at me.
Yeah.
I've always said that about Child's Play.
Yeah.
The music.
The 2019
Exactly. It's
score, which I'm still waiting on, is
But it's things like that become iconic. The hockey mask. You just you don't even have to have seen a Friday the 13th film. If I show you a hockey mask, Jason Voorhees.
Mm-hmm.
If I show you a glove with knives on it, you don't need to have seen Nightmare on Elm Street. You know it's Freddy. It's things like that are just so iconic. I mean, as much as I love Psycho, and personally think that Norman Bates should be in the big three, just because of the impact that Psycho had on movies in general. You can't. If I showed you a wig and a knife, there's only going to be like proper cinephiles who are going to get that. Yes, that's Norman Bates. But it could also be a dozen others.
That's what I think the downfall of Scream is. I think Scream would be like really up there if we didn't know that they're different killers every time.
Yeah.
Well, that ghost mask is
iconic.
Is as iconic.
Yeah. It doesn't hold as much weight because you know it's not the same person behind it each time. But with each film, the killer themselves becomes more diluted. Whereas if you have a series of films in which it's the same killer each time, even if the films get crapper, the mythos of the killer themselves becomes greater because you've followed them through each of these films.
You beat me to it.
I mean, explain it. They keep making them, but
some are just irredeemable.
Some.
Leatherface isn't really. I mean, he is, but he isn't. It's not like there's the one killer. He's not the predominant threat in all of those movies. And in a lot of ways, like you look at the remake, I would almost consider Arlie Ermey a bigger threat than Leatherface.
Yeah, definitely. He's not the intellect. He's not the intelligence behind it all, and he's not really the main focus. He becomes iconic. Wears a mask and carries the chainsaw, but actually it's the rest of the family that are doing the most damage.
In the middle there, it gets really weird. Like
it's the same with Pinhead. Like Pinhead has the most iconic look of all of the Cenobites, but it's not like Pinhead is showing up, killing people, and then scurrying off back to hell. Like those movies, it's just they're not Pinhead's movies half the time, so it's not the same. When you watch a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, that's Freddy's movie. When you watch a Friday the 13th movie, that's Jason's movie. So it's
funny, yeah. You have it. You have the look, and you just can't fill it. And this is the last one. That is not the last one.
Will Meister, you really want me to review some obscure shit, man? We almost reviewed that Bates Motel thing, but it's actually just a pilot, and Brian warned us that it was absolutely horrible, so we didn't bother with it.
So this is it. It was an add-on from Ashley's question. What is your favorite movie ending? And then we are all set.
Oh man, I wish I would have prepared that one.
That's a hard question.
Anybody feel free to chime in while I think.
It changes for me. I'll say what ending like advances a movie by about a point and a half for me, and it's Shutter Island. The line that is said at the end of Shutter Island just wins me over and makes me want to watch it like right again.
Better to live as a monster or die as a good man.
Yeah, really, really good line.
It amazes me how many people get thrown for a loop by that line. I'm like, it's so obvious what it tells you as far as the story. Kind of going along with that, this might not be my favorite ending, but it is my favorite ending to discuss because it blows my mind how many people don't quite get it. Not to be that guy, because I hate that guy. Inception. Inception to me has a great ending to its story, and to me it's very 150% clear what that ending is conveying, but you still get the question, and every single time you discuss that movie, like, did he make it out? Is he still in the dream? And it doesn't matter. That's the whole point of the ending, is that he accepts whatever reality he's in. I can go further with it, but that's the point of the ending, not whether or not he's still asleep or not.
The wedding ring is his token.
Yep.
Sorry, Brian?
Favorite ending?
No. Favorite cheese? Gouda, what do you think?
Mochetta man.
I zoned out a bit because I was reading the comments, and I assumed you were talking about favorite endings.
Yes.
Yeah. So
the thing has a great ending.
It does have a great ending. I like endings like that. Green Room has a very similar ending to The Thing, actually, in which it's almost like a non-event, but there's something very good. But no, my favorite ending is from Magnolia, and most subtle of endings, to the point where you could miss it if you're not paying attention. And it follows this character of Claudia, who, for anyone who's seen Magnolia, it's a whole load of different stories that kind of crisscross and interweave, and it's kind of make a tapestry of life in California.
It's Boogie Nights, but depressing.
Well, Boogie Nights isn't exactly the most uplifting.
Fair point. Either, that's a fair.
To be honest, it has more hope than Boogie Nights.
Yeah.
I like the ending because it is all about hope. So you've got this character of Claudia who she's been on a date with this policeman, Jim Curring, who is one of my favorite characters, cinema characters. And it kind of goes a bit to pot because he finds out about her history and she worries about that and all this, that, and the other. She's got a history of abuse in a childhood and things like that. And she runs away because that's what she does. She runs from life at every turn. But he goes to her at the end, and he goes into a room. She's sat there on the bed, and he just goes over, and you can't quite hear what he's saying. Although if you put the subtitles on the Blu-ray or the DVD, you find out what he's saying. But that's not important. You don't need to. All you need to know, and you get the sense from this without actually hearing what he's saying, is that he's really and saying that I'm not going to run. I'm not going to go. I'm not going to leave you. I'm here to stay. We're in this together. And it's a really long shot. It's one shot. It's one long shot. And I think if you're not paying attention, if you zone out of it because you think, oh, well, this is clearly the ending, it's a bit boring, why is it going on so long, you might not catch it. You might just wait for the credits to come on and that's it, end of film. But you have to watch it, because in the very last moment, literally the last second, Melora Walters, who plays Claudia, she looks up into camera, and the look on her face just says it all. And every time it gets me, it just breaks me every time. It's this really hopeful look. She smiles, she gives this quick smile, and it says everything it needs to say, which is that, you know what, it's going to be okay. life from here is going to be okay. And it's just beautifully handled, and I love it. Every time I watch it, I love that ending. It's brilliant.
Was that our last post-mortem question, CP?
That was it, yep.
We had 2 super chats. I don't know if you wrote them down that were a while ago.
Oh, yeah, Believe in the Hype. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Next Batman villain you'd like to see. I'd like to see a sadistic Riddler. That's one that was 5. Thank you.
We almost got it. I wanted to see Deathstroke. The version of Batman we got from Ben Affleck, a lot more physicality, that whole warehouse fight. I wanted to see that type of fight choreography with a badass Deathstroke. That would have been my pick, but I don't think we're going to get that.
I'd like to do... I had an idea for a Batman film a while back, and I'd really like to see... There's 2 villains that I think would go very well together if you set it within the world of kind of gangster type villains, and that's Reaper and the original Tallyman, which, and I'm sure a lot of people right now are thinking, Tallyman? Never heard of him. But yeah, he has a very similar history to well, he has a very kind of flip side type of history to Bruce in many ways. But yeah, he's a guy who works for the mob, takes hits. He's a hitman basically, but with a bit of a tragic past. And yeah, in one particular story, the John Paul Valley version having a bat into his chest, and it'd be nice if they worked that into it somehow. But yeah, I liked him. He was an interesting kind of D-list villain, but yeah, I always liked him. So yeah, that and Reaper would be good.
Make Catwoman. You want to have a big prominent female in a film? Make Catwoman, but it'd be a bad guy, so I don't know if that would work. But give me a modern day Catwoman.
Fair enough. Didn't he have a second one?
Yes, that's right. Sorry. Spider-Man versus Sinister Six? Question mark.
Yeah, it'll happen.
Yeah, I was going to say MCU would be fools to not attack that at some point. I think that's actually what Sony's building themselves up for the smart way, is they're doing these individual villain films for the eventual day that they do get Spider-Man back, and then we don't have the problem we typically would with a movie like that, where you throw 6 villains in and you have to introduce all of them and have focus and figure out what's going on. We would already know by that point. It would just be the addition of Tom Holland's Spider-Man. So yeah, eventually it'll happen. They're hell-bent on making that happen. They've tried to do it so many times and not gotten there.
And I think as well with Joker just coming out, that idea now of doing a solo movie with a villain is going to be very appealing to Sony. So, yeah.
Well, they've already got Morbius coming down the pipe. They just announced, what the hell was this? It looked like some kind of a Spider Woman. I don't know what the name of the villain was, but they've got movies that they're trying to do. I'm sure we'll get Kraven the Hunter at some point. So I think they're trying to reverse engineer that. They're going with all the standalone villain movies, and then we'll get the big team up villain movie.
There was another super chat from Nathan Oswald. The Halloween 3 ending. Classic Carpenter.
Yeah, that's the most Carpenter feeling Halloween movie since the first one. But yeah, agreed.
One of my favorite Halloweens. Oddly enough.
Yeah, me too. Not Brian's. All right, guys. Well, it went a little bit longer than we expected to, but there was a lot of discussion with Joker and everything, a lot of things to discuss. So, but it's all good. We got a lot of stuff out today. Thank you guys for joining us today. Thank you so much for the super chats. That probably will be the format that we'll stick to, guys, just for you for future notice. Lady Webb, thank you, Dennis. That is the format that we're going to try to stick to, just to kind of keep flow. I've never been a fan of stopping the show to answer questions that take us on a completely different path. So all super chats will be notated and set at the end with the post-mortem questions, but we will get to every single one of them. So thank you, those of you that did donate. Thank you to CP and Brian for coming in this Sunday afternoon. CP, you got anything coming up on your channel we should be looking forward to that's not coming out on Halloween?
So there's We might be doing there's something on Patreon where Emily and I went to see Joker. There's that vlog, which isn't a review. It's just us, the events before and after. We might do a live stream of us watching 3 from Hell tonight. Like first experience.
Is it out on VOD? Ish.
I think your uncle's got it.
My uncle sent me a copy.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna message your uncle.
Feel free to join us, man.
Funnily enough, my uncle sent me a copy as well.
Oh, see that? Yeah.
My uncle's not really as Rob Zombie guy, so I'm gonna have to lean on the shoulders of your family. But Brian, what do we have looking forward to?
Wait,
Brian
real quick. A bunch of
you
numbers from Joker, a bunch of record. If you're interested in
Yes.
what's going on with Joker and all the records it's setting for October, we'll be talking about that on Show Business tomorrow night. So nerdy math stuff tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Sorry,
Brian.
I've got the rest of my Evil Dead series. Then I'll be moving from that into Terminator franchise, and then from that into the Alien franchise, amongst other things as well that I've got going on. So yeah.
Absolutely. I'm looking at a dry erase calendar board that I bought to try to map out my videos a little better, try to hold myself accountable and plan a little better. And my God, is October going to hurt? I'm looking at it right now, and there may be a few things that slip through the cracks. Life does get in the way sometimes. But in a perfect world, for the month of October on this channel, we'll probably do at least one more AutopStream for the month of October, so there's that. Every single Tuesday, provided me or Sean do not have scheduling conflicts, will be a Terminator review leading up to Terminator Dark Fate. I just dropped Evil Dead last night. Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness will be a week from now, because all next week is Breaking Bad week on this channel. I've got a review for every single season, and I'm going to be reviewing El Camino when it comes out on Friday, and then probably doing a Breaking Bad seasons ranked that Saturday. So if you're not a fan of Breaking Bad, you can hit the pause button on the Cody Leach world for a week. But whenever I get back into horror, Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, I'm doing Laid to Rest and Chrome Skull with the horror show, Cecil. So we're going to be doing that probably that week if that date works fine for him, if not later on in the month. Zombieland and Zombieland 2, which comes out that week. So I'll be reviewing the original and then doing the new one. And then the week after that is all George Romero. So I've got Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Land of the Dead, Survival of the Dead, Diary of the Dead. Fucking Cody's going to be dead. So I've got all of those. And then I'm going to try my best to squeeze in somewhere, but this is the one that's probably going to fall victim this month, the Reanimator films, because there's still one more franchise that I need to review and prep for 31 on 31. And then wrapping it all up on October 31st, all three of us, 31 on 31. So if any of you guys are not familiar with what that is, which I highly doubt, but this is our big yearly thing that we're doing where we take horror franchises of our choice, put them into a gigantic ranking video. Last year we did the big three, Freddy, Michael, and Jason. This year, thus far, we've announced all the franchises but one, somewhat. But
they're out there if you look.
Unless you've been paying attention.
Yeah. So we've got Texas Chainsaw, Brian's favorite, Child's Play, my favorite, Scream, probably CP's favorite of those. Oh no, we got Psycho. Never mind, that's Brian's favorite. Psycho, Scream, Child's Play, Texas Chainsaw, Evil Dead, and then one more. So
you're going to say Psycho, nobody's favorite, just to mess with me.
No. I know whether or not to do that. You'd go dark and never talk to us again. So yeah, that's the big season finale of this October, guys. So thank you so much for joining us. As always, keep your eyes peeled for the announcement of the next episode. Go ahead and subscribe to these guys' channels if you have not seen it, or if you've not already subscribed to their channels, please. Their links are down in the video description as always. And CP?
Today's edible panties flavor is candy corn.
Wow.
And I have to, I was told last time it takes a couple of seconds, so I'd rather let it sit for a second than mid-sentence. So goodbye, everybody. Say goodbye, everybody. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.